Some of the most important works on our journey to save Château de Purnon are projects that will ultimately never be seen. But we can sure see them now. This week we take you on the incredible journey of the work underway right here in the dry moat.
When Château de Purnon was first constructed almost 250 years ago, there was no electricity. The chateau was lit by candles. There were no flushing toilets. The noble family and their servants used chamber pots that had to be emptied by hand. There was no central heating. The rooms were warmed by fireplaces. And when it rained, stone gutters carried water away. These incredible plans discovered at the chateau are 120 years old and reveal a massive program of modernisation works.
Flushing toilets were introduced for the first time, and huge septic tanks were installed right here in the dry moat.
Electricity arrived, covered in cotton, wrapped around the copper wires. Zinc gutters were installed on the massive roof, requiring downpipes to carry the rainwater away.
And a coal-fired central heating system was installed here in the basement. To cover all the new cisterns, pipes and tanks, hundreds of tons of earth was added to the dry moat. This massive modernisation changed the appearance of the chateau from the roofline all the way to the basement and the dry moat. And today it's left us with a legacy of systems that are redundant, unsafe and no longer legally compliant.
Today, Château de Purnon is undergoing the biggest restoration in its history. Can we restore and modernise at the same time? Could we take Purnon back to the way the chateau would have looked at the end of the 18th century?
While installing modern heating, electricity, plumbing, fibre and environmentally sustainable waste evacuation systems.
The key to achieving this lies in the chateau's dry moat. At the end of the 18th century, Château de Purnon's architect made the decision to surround 3 sides of the chateau with a dry moat. Creating a dramatic setting, the moat was never intended to be filled with water, but instead provided a practical use for domestic staff to come and go from the chateau basements via a network of tunnels. Last year, the eastern dry moat wall was restored. But the restoration of the western moat wall could not commence until the restoration of the western side of the chateau roof and facades was close to completion, giving our stonemasons the required access to the moat. The restoration of the failing western moat wall could then begin. First, the coping stones were removed. Then, the stone wall was dismantled stone by stone. Every stone cleaned and conserved to be used in the rebuilding of the wall. The septic tanks added into the moat in the 19th century modernisation works are now redundant. But before the level of the moat can be returned to its original 18th century level, these need to have their tops lowered, be emptied and cleaned before they can be filled in. The hundreds of tons of earth added to the dry moat over 100 years ago raised the level of the moat, so all this earth had to be removed. Three years ago, we connected heating to the chateau via a network of enormous insulated pipes. At the point where these pipes reached the moat tunnels, the level needed to be dropped to meet the new level of the moat. One of our biggest challenges has been creating a new wastewater network and finding the most appropriate position for a new gravity-fed septic system outside of the moat walls. Before the moat wall can be rebuilt, a huge channel needs to be dug for the wastewater pipes that will take the wastewater from the chateau to the septic system all underneath the moat, whilst the rainwater from the roof will travel under the moat to our large water storage cisterns in front of the chateau outbuildings. 19th century pipes now removed, modern infrastructure can be laid for the chateau's new wastewater and rainwater networks. And with the huge trench going under the moat wall, we'll also lay electrical and water conduit for future use elsewhere on the western side of the domain.
Well, what a week, what a journey it's been in the dry moat. So much progress has been made. There's still a huge amount of work to do. They've got to rebuild the wall on the western side of the dry moat. You saw the guys lowering the levels of the tops of those 19th century septic tank systems. Unfortunately, when those systems were added, they were well above the original level of the dry moat. So as we return to the original level, those tops had to come off, and the best solution was to use them for fill for all of the earth and the concrete pipes, etc., that have been extracted during the works that have been occurring over the last few weeks. We have a huge amount of water storage already in the dry moat, so we didn't need those for any other purpose, but it's really wonderful to see all the progress that's being made.
Yeah, we sort of started the week with a heap of what felt like
disruption and destruction. There was just the earth and so much activity. And to end the week now with all the piping in, all the plumbing in, all the conduit for the electricity that's going to go out to other buildings on the domain and actually into the parking, and extra conduit for provisioning for future needs, and then have all the earth go back down and really hide all this infrastructure that is all about modernising the chateau. It's been a week of immense progress.
Yeah, it's really great to see all the progress. And to all of our friends following from the United States, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. It's not too late. Today is the last day to click on the link below and get some hard Yakka gear for Dad. Get the 40% discount before it runs out.
And this week, exclusively for our Patreon and YouTube Plus Patreon tier access members, we have had some requests for a tour of the attic. So join Tim as he takes you for a tour of Purnon's magnificent attic. Otherwise, as always, if you would like to follow the restoration of Château de Purnon more closely, we post a free weekly video on YouTube every Sunday. We post frequent updates on all our social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or just hit the subscribe button, turn on your notifications, and we will keep you updated here. See you next week.